This Saturday, August 16th, will mark 1 year since we lost one of the most iconic, if not the most iconic figure in dirt late model racing. It was a man by the name of Scott Bloomquist. And in the video today, we're going to be taking a look back on one of the most storied careers, what his early life looked like, and how his life tragically came to an end. Before we get into it, subscribe to the channel. Let's get into it. Scott Dean Bloomquist was born on November 14th, 1963. He was the son of an airplane pilot for Air Cal. While stationed in California, Scott Bloomquist's father was invited by his coworkers to see a stock car race. The elder Bloomquist thought that he would give racing a try, so he bought a race car, a motor, and some old tires. He tried it and decided to give the car to his son. Scott Bloomquist's first race was at the Corona Raceway in Corona, California on August in 1980. He won several races and the track championship just 2 years into his racing career in 1982. By the time 1983 came around, he was already recognized as a very fierce competitor, and he would hear about a 4,000 to win race at Chula Vista Speedway in Chula Vista, California. He saw a picture of a flat wedge-shaped race car that Charlie Sports had used to win the Dirt Track World Championship in 1982, and he decided to build a race car like that for the race in Chula Vista. Bloomquist would win that race. He would not only win, he would lap the entire field 2 times, not once, but twice. After the race, his father wanted to sell the car since it was worth a lot of money. The two agreed to reach an agreement. The father would gradually be paid for the car if the newly graduated Scott Bloomquist would work at his father's new farm far across the country in Tennessee. He traded his 1957 Chevy for a truck and a race hauler. After arriving in Tennessee, he tore up the car in qualifying at the Newport Speedway. He worked for his father until he had enough money to repair the car. He won some races, earning just enough money to continue racing. After getting his car fixed, the next year, he would decide to go to Kingsport, Tennessee Speedway and race the new car. It had begun hosting 2,500 to win every single Saturday night. I would come rolling into the race with my dad, and there sits Larry Moore. Scott Bloomquist said he was the fastest guy in dirt late model racing, and there he sits. And my dad says, well, there goes $2,500. Scott Bloomquist would qualify second fast behind Moore and started on Moore's outside in the first row. Scott Bloomquist used his winnings to improve his race car, and he continued working at his father's farm to pay off the rest of the original race car. He began going to races with $2,000 purses that were 100+ miles away from his house. In 1988, he decided to go up to a racetrack that would change his life forever. In 1988, Scott Bloomquist would go up to a racetrack by the name of Eldora Speedway to race the World 100 against the 3-time winner and favorite Jeff Purvis. After qualifying for the feature, which is unusual for somebody coming up there for their first time, he would start 7th. Purvis took the early lead in the race, but Bloomquist would slowly inch his way, and he would pass Purvis for the win. Some people considered his win a fluke, until Scott Bloomquist took the pole position in the following year and won the race again in 1990. Scott knew that people doubted him, and he showed up to the plate every single time. Bloomquist would race in the Hava Tampa Series from 1993 to 1996, winning the National Touring Series in 1994 and 1995. He would lead for 1996 until he lost all of his points for bumping another car under caution. He had 60 wins in the series during that time, and second place had 18. In 1997, he had problems both on and off the track. He left racing and started reading. He read about the human body and mind, and after he returned to racing a changed person, he took all of his sponsors off the cars and used only a black and white paint. He changed from his familiar number 18 to his iconic number 0. He put the yin-yang symbol in the middle of the 0 to represent the balance that he found in his life. He later raced with the number 0 with a skull and crossbones through the middle of the number. In 2003, Scott would compete full-time on the Extreme Dirt Car Series, formerly the Hava Tampa Series, and he would win his 5th championship with the organization. In 2004, he raced in the World of Outlaws and won the championship. He was named the 2006 RPM Racing News Driver of the Year, and he would win the Dirt Late Model Dream, the Topless 100, the Scorcher 100, the Race Fest, the Dixie Shootout, and the Cedar Lake Nationals, and would also win 9 Lucas Oil Dirt Series races that same season. So just from major races, he would bag around $250,000. But I'm going to go back a minute to 2003 on the day of June 20th. Scott Bloomquist was pulled over at just around 2 o'clock in the morning between Clear Lake and Ventura, Iowa, by a Cerro Gordo County deputy sheriff. The initial contact, the deputy believed that Bloomquist was under the influence of an alcoholic beverage while driving. After the field sobriety tests were conducted, Bloomquist was arrested for operating while intoxicated, and during the search of his person, a small plastic baggie contained a white powdery substance, and that was found and field tested and came positive for cocaine, which Bloomquist was also charged with. At that same time, the president of the Extreme Dirt Car Series, Doug Bland, would say, "The policy for our series is a 1-year ban for drivers convicted of felony drug charges. The policy was one that I inherited when I bought the series in January. All I basically did was change the name in the rule book and shipped it out." In this instant, it looked like Scott Bloomquist was off the hook because of the charges being misdemeanors, not felonies. It is still alarming that this was the second time that he had been arrested for cocaine-related charges. The last one resulted in a 6-month jail sentence. There was a rumor that the first time he was set up, but there's really no solid evidence to support that, and he was convicted of it. And please, by no means, do not take this as me trying to disrespect Scott Bloomquist. I understand that it might be a sensitive topic, but I feel like it is important to talk about, especially now that some time has passed since he passed away. It's important to his story because it'll come up again. Now, one of his saddest moments was during the 2015 Eldora Dream, where he would win but turn up 25 pounds light at the scales and would lose out on the $100,000 payday. And now that you guys have seen part of his backstory, we're going to talk about the things that led up to his demise. Scott Bloomquist was preparing to have back surgery when his doctors would find something awful. Scott Bloomquist would be diagnosed with prostate cancer. And just to give you a quick rundown, prostate cancer is a common type of cancer that starts in the prostate gland, which is part of the male reproductive system. It often grows slowly and may not cause serious problems if it does not spread to other parts of the body. Symptoms can include difficulty urinating, pelvic discomfort, and on August 16th, 2024, Scott Bloomquist would crash his single-engine airplane on his family's farm in Tennessee. Everybody originally thought it was an accident, thought maybe he went for a flight, something failed, and he crashed. But the way that he had crashed had made some people think that it might have been intentional. And the NTSB, or the National Transportation Safety Board, would release the findings of their investigation. And they would, in fact, rule that it was most likely an act of suicide. They said that they did not find any malfunctions on the airplane, and there were a lot of people that didn't want this released. There were a lot of people who did want it released. And at the end of the day, it is what it is. I think it had to have been released at some point. They had an ongoing investigation, and I'm not quite sure how long the investigation took. It could have taken this long, but I'm not 100% sure on how all that stuff works. And that is the end of the story of Scott Bloomquist. Scott Bloomquist lived in the fast lane and died in the fast lane. He is the textbook definition of living the American dream. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. And of course, rest in peace to the greatest of all time.